Hello friends! Today we will be making soap. I've been making soap for 5 years and some of you have been asking for the process. So today I'm going to guide you through all the utensils needed, through all the ingredients needed, and then through the whole process step by step. Let's jump into it. By the end of the video you will be able to make your own soap. So let's start first with the safety gear that we will need, because we will be working with a chemical called sodium hydroxide. I think that's the English name, sodium hydroxide, and this is highly alkaline, which means if it comes in contact with your skin when it's wet, it will burn like acid and will literally burn the skin off your body. So for that, first of all, we will be using safety goggles when we start using the chemical, and second of all, throughout the whole process I recommend using one of these because it will prevent the oil from sticking on your clothing and everything touching your clothing, which will be very nice. Next, when we use this chemical, when we start using it and mixing with water, we want a breathing mask which prevents the gases that come up to get in our lungs, which is very important. I will be violating some of these safety rules in the video because I've been making it 100 times. But in the beginning, in the first 5 times, please stick to it. Also use rubber gloves, please, because it's really burning very strongly. So use rubber gloves. Don't look at how I'm doing it right now. Also keep vinegar close to you, because vinegar will neutralize the burns of the sodium hydroxide. So if a burn happens, you simply put some of this on your hands to neutralize it, or on your face, wherever comes the drop. All right. So let's go through our ingredients. Our base ingredients are oils, natural oils. So this is 5 liters of olive oil, and this is a kilo of coconut oil. You will not need that much probably in your first attempt, because you will not make a huge amount. We can later calculate how much you need exactly for what amount of soap. In the beginning, I would advise to make about a kilo of soap in total, because the measurements are easy and you don't need a lot of ingredients for that. So these oils are the main ingredients. The next component is sodium hydroxide with distilled water. You can also use tap water, it's not a problem, it will work out most of the time. And sodium hydroxide you can get in a chemical supply or online. So now, safety-wise, this is a dangerous chemical because it will burn your skin, burn your eyes when it comes in contact with them, and you have to wear your safety goggles, your rubber gloves, and your something over your clothes at all times when you are working with this chemical. So these two things, the oils and the sodium hydroxide with the water, which will make a lye, are base ingredients, so they are needed at every time we do the process. So the third component is something optional, which is essential oils. So these are natural essential oils which are distilled out of fruits and herbs, and you can get them in many places. Some of them are cheaper, some of them are more expensive, and you can use them to make your soap smell nice. So, and another additive is, for example, turmeric powder, which you can use as a colorant. So this will make the soap slightly orange or slightly yellow, and there are a lot of plants, a lot of natural powders which can make your soap into different colors. So now let's go through the utensils that you need. I will put a list of them in the description so that you can easily check your boxes. So let's start with a plastic blanket which you will use to cover your surfaces. Because as I said, sodium hydroxide will burn, and it will not only burn your skin, but it will also burn stone, wood, and metal. So it will damage these materials if it comes in contact with them. So we will use a plastic blanket to cover our surfaces. That said, all the bowls that we're using should be either of glass or of plastic, because metal and wood will be corrosed by the alkaline mixture that we're using. If you are working with oils which are naturally solid in your temperature where you're at, for example, in my temperature here, coconut oil is solid, so I have to melt it first on the stove so that I can use it. So one of these will be needed. Next, we need a plastic bowl to put our oils into, and it should be big enough so that the amount of oils that you use only cover half of the bowl. So you need a pretty big bowl. Next, we need a glass or plastic container. In optimal, it should be see-through because we want to be able to see how our lye that we mix later is doing. So one mixing container is needed as well. It should hold about 1 liter. That should be big enough in the beginning. So a 1 liter container is fine. Next, we need one mixing tool for our lye. This is simply a plastic stick for mixing the sodium hydroxide and the water. Then we need a fine scale. So this is important because not all of you might have this at home. This is a fine scale which goes exactly on the gram and even finer, but you basically need a scale which is accurate up to 1 gram. That said, you might also need a bigger scale because these small scales only go up to a certain scale. You also might need a bigger kitchen scale for your oils and for your water amount. So next, we need a hand mixer. Simple kitchen item. It can be used for food afterwards as well. You can simply clean it afterwards. So these are there to make the soap. You will also need one of these, which is basically, you can use anything. This is the mold for our soap. So when we finished to make the soap in the bowl, we will put it in here to rest overnight, and the soap will assume the form of your box. Afterwards we will cut it, but this will be the basic form of your soap block. So you can use a shoebox for that and put a plastic bag inside, or you can get a ready-made mold. There's a silicone form in here in a wooden box, and this makes the whole process a lot easier. But you can also simply use a shoebox and put some plastic bags inside and fix them with some tape. It works the same. All right. Here is a little demonstration of how to use a soap calculator. So you just Google it, and then you can use this one, for example. We're doing solid soap, we're using grams, and the superfatting level we use for hand soap can be 6%. And we click next, select our ingredients. So we have coconut oil, this one. There we put the number of grams, 200 grams here, as well as olive oil, pure olive oil, where we put 800 grams. So now it shows us the ingredients that we chose, and now when we click next, it will calculate the sodium hydroxide that we need. So now it shows us for the oils that we chose how much grams of liquid and how much sodium hydroxide we need, and based on that we can make our lye. So yeah, that is how you calculate. So as you see, I set up my counter with a plastic blanket on one side, and this part is still bare. So whenever I'm using sodium hydroxide, I will be working on this side only. So since we're doing a simple recipe of 200 grams coconut oil and 800 grams of olive oil, which makes 1 kilo of oil in the end, we need to melt our coconut oil first. So we measure 200 grams of coconut oil and then put it in here. So we do this first because the oil should be able to get liquid, but still not be too hot when we go to the final mixing steps. So we do this first, melting the oil. If we have some solid oils, we will melt them first. So now we will be mixing our lye out of sodium hydroxide and water. You can see some of the water I exchanged with ice cubes. That will help the mixture to cool faster, which is something that is beneficial for us. So after you calculated the oils that you're using and the total weight, the soap calculator will give you the exact amount of sodium hydroxide that you need. In my case now, it is 135 grams. So I measured this very exactly. And then I slowly pour it into the water, which I already measured, and keep mixing. So we want this mixture we want to stir it so long until it gets clear. That means that now it's milky, as you see, it's a milky substance. We want the water to get clear again. So we mix and we make sure that no crystals of the sodium hydroxide build in here. It will get very hot, that's why we added the ice. Be sure not to have your face above this mixture because there will be some gas of the sodium hydroxide which you definitely don't want to breathe in, okay? Now we can leave it for some time. So now we're pouring our olive oil in here, which we need 800 grams. I already measured it, I just need to add a little bit more. So now this is 800 grams of olive oil in here. And we put our melted coconut oil in here as well. Alright, so we mixed it in this bowl. And now we have to wait a little bit and keep stirring until our sodium hydroxide is clear again. By this point, please be sure that you already prepared your mold, because later you will have to go through the steps in a quick succession. So prepare your bowl now, your mold now. If you're using a shoebox, simply take a shoebox and put some plastic bags in here, which you use for rubbish disposal, for example, and fix them with tape on the side. So then you will have pretty much the same as this mold is already. All right, friends, our lye has pretty much become clear. And what we do now is very simple. We slowly mix the lye into our soap. And we will be using the electric hand mixer for that as well. But that will be very loud and I will do it with a video off probably. So right now I will just use this plastic stick. So basically you want to mix this mixture with your hand or with the electric mixer until it thickens like fresh vanilla pudding, which means it should be thick enough that if you draw a line, the line on the mixture should not immediately disappear but stay there, okay? Alright, let's use the electric mixer for some time. So now our mixture has thickened. I will demonstrate it a little bit. I hope it's visible. So let's see. We draw a line here. I don't think it's visible. So, but if I draw a line here, it stays there for some time. So it has a certain thickness to it. Now is the point where we can add our colorants, our color, as well as our essential oils for smell. So I will add some lavender and some orange. And this is really a matter of taste. So that means that over time you will learn how to measure these exactly to have a nice smell. Some scents will require more and some will require less because they're naturally strong. I will give some guidelines in the description on how to measure your essential oils if you use some. Alright, so this will be mainly lavender and some little bit of orange smell. Now I will mix this mixture again. You see now a nice pattern is forming. We make sure that we mix it thoroughly, and we can use the electric mixer again as well for this step. The reason why we put the essential oils and the coloring in the last step is because we don't want them to interact with our sodium hydroxide lye. We want the sodium hydroxide to first react with the basic oils that we use, so our olive oil and our coconut oil, and then the chemical process should not touch the essential oils so strongly. That's why we do them in the end. So right now we're almost at the final step of this phase. We simply have our mixture here, our soap mixture, and we pour it into our mold. All right, there we go. So this fits almost perfectly because I know how much soap fits in here. This is about 1 kilo of oil that fits in here, which is very nice. I have a little bit too much, it seems. So there is some oil left over, so I will use a little cupcake cup to pour the rest of the oil in there. So now that we have our soap in the form, which looks like this, it's still liquid, we will have to let it rest for 24 hours. If you're having a wooden box, then you can simply leave it like that and maybe cover it with a wooden lid, which would be nice, because we want to preserve heat. The saponification process will create a lot of heat actually, and that heat is needed to allow the saponification process. So if you have just a thin shoebox, it's good to wrap it in a blanket and leave it in a warm place. But if you're doing a good amount of soap, which basically one kilogram is a good amount in terms of volume, and in this way the saponification process will work out fine. If you're using smaller molds, they should be in a warm place so that the saponification process can happen. Alright, so see you in 24 hours when we cut this soap. Alright, we're back 24 hours later. Now our soap is finished. It went through the saponification process, and now we can unmold it and cut it. So for this step you will need a kitchen knife, the bigger the better, but not too thick in the best case, not too thick of a blade, and a cutting board. If you have one of these soap cutters, of course that's the best, but if you're watching this video, you probably do not have that tool yet. So this is the little piece that we had in the cupcake mold, and this is our bigger block. It's totally solid, and we can unmold it like this. So we carefully remove the side part, so we do it like this so that the walls become free first of all, and the soap block is still a little sticky and still a little oily and wet, so that's totally normal, but we have to be careful not to damage the structure when we unmold it. Oh yes, there it is. So this is the whole block of soap. You see it here. And now you have the freedom to cut it in whichever way you like it. So you just choose how big of a soap piece you want, and then you just place your knife and cut it exactly like that. The smell is nice, lavender and orange. Yeah, this piece is good. You can see in the core the saponification process happened, and it didn't completely extend to the edges, but that's perfectly fine. But you can see that there is a clear color difference of where the saponification process happened, this circle in here, and that it didn't spread out to the edges completely. And a little extra that we have here is another block of soap that I made yesterday. You can see here, it's not made with a soap mold, but simply, as I mentioned before, a shoebox with a plastic bag inside. So let's unmold that as well. So, as you can see, this is a much bigger block of soap. This is about 4.5 kilos. And this is hair soap, so I made it out of harder oils, more coconut oil. And that means it's also much harder than our hand soap block. So as you can see, I'm cutting these with a blade that has like little waves in them. It has this nice effect of making the soap look like this. And that's how I differentiate between the hand wash soap and the hair soap that I make. Yeah, so basically this is the whole process now. If you followed everything through, you should have your own piece of soap in your hands right now. And now we need a little bit of patience, because we need to let it rest for a few weeks. So usually 3 to 6 weeks, you should leave your soap in a place where there is no direct sunlight, but some air around. And after that, you can start using your soap pieces. So I hope you enjoyed this process a lot, and I'm curious on your results. See you.